What's up, Dad?
What's up, Dad? What's up? What's up, Dad? What's up?
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
What's going on, everybody? It is the next episode of What's Up, Dad. I have a new guest here with us today, Harvey. I'm going to botch the last name. We're going to go with Yergin. Is that right?
Yeah,
Am I close?
That's right.
All
yeah,
right, there we go.
It.
Yeah. So we got an awesome guest today. And honestly, by my mistake, I didn't look at his form in total reality and say, man, this dude's in Columbus. I just looked over it. I saw a 901 area code and I was like, yeah, okay, we'll be doing this over the computer. That was my assumption. He hits me up this morning and he goes, hey, what are we doing? Where are we meeting? I'm like, that's great. Totally botched this one, but hey, that's what dad life's about. Sometimes we glaze over things, and that's the reality. So it is what it is. But without further ado, I'll let Harvey introduce himself, and we will hop into today's episode.
What's up? I'm Harvey Yergin, and I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm from Akron, Ohio, so I'm an Ohio boy. I went to college at Valparaiso to play baseball, and from there took a job with the U.S. government in logistics and moved to Virginia, then Tennessee, which is where I got that area code. And then we spent 4 years in Portland, Oregon, then moved to Detroit, Michigan, where I quit my job and was a stay-at-home dad for 2-ish years. And then we moved to Westerville, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus. And then we decided we didn't like the suburbs anymore and moved into the city. I have a wife of 13 years, will be 14 years this year, which is kind of crazy to say, and 3 kids, girl, boy, girl, Brinley, Harvey, and Clara. Harvey is the 5th, so he's part of a long lineage of Harveys in the Yergin family, and they are 11, 8, and 7, and my youngest name is Clara. And by day, I run a single-family real estate investment company. It's actually a Homebusters franchise. We buy ugly houses, the cavemen you might see on TV or billboards around town. And we market direct to seller, and we buy houses, we renovate them, we keep some of them, we sell the rest. That's pretty much the gist of what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. We learn something every day. Didn't know how did you play all 4 years baseball in college, or?
Yeah, I did. Yep. I was fortunate enough to go and start as a freshman. So that was a pretty amazing experience. I met my wife there, met some of my best friends there, who are still my friends today. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to have gone and done that.
That is awesome. That's pretty exciting. I played college baseball myself, not at that extent.
Oh,
yeah? Yeah, I played out of Clark State. I moved from, so I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay.
And my dad moved up here. He took a VP of manufacturing for a company that's based out of Columbus.
Okay.
And they have a facility in Vietnam. And so he moved up here to work on logistics and stuff like that. Well, right after, so a lot of people don't know this, and I don't want to make this all about me, but the short and sweet of the story is my junior going into senior year, and I have it, I have a thing, I wish it were behind me so you could see it, but I have a newspaper clipping that's framed. I lost like 100 pounds going from junior to senior year in high school. So I was very overweight. I was, you wouldn't notice it. I was very athletic. However, I just was extremely overweight. I was a very good baseball player. And, that killed my, that's when you get recruited, junior, senior year. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Like, so senior year, I freaking killed it, crushed it, had a really, really good season, but it didn't go anywhere. It was too late. Day late, dollar short, right? I mean, hadn't had enough people seeing me and stuff like that. And so I come up here, played out at Clark State, was going to go to Cedarville University, but I really didn't want $50,000 a year of that. So I decided to stop, and that was short-lived. It was well worth it. Played for a crazy coach out there that was like a Hall of Fame coach from.
Where's out there? Where is?
Springfield. Played out in Springfield. Yeah.
Okay.
So, gosh, where did he go? Urbana University.
Okay.
He was a coach at Urbana for like 30 years, like a Hall of Fame coach. But nonetheless, not to digress.
So were you a position player? Did you play first, or
I was a catcher.
you were a catcher?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yep.
all in high school, even when you were overweight, you were a catcher.
I was always a catcher.
Nice.
Always a catcher. Yep.
Okay.
So could play really well. So was my brother, but he threw like he was a very gifted individual. So we actually played with Kyle Seeger in high school. My brother was in the same grade, played in the same, like literally
Oh, okay.
same high school, same team as like Kyle Seeger.
Nice.
Played with Corey Seeger, Madison Bumgardner. All those people went to like either our high school or the local area, which was kind of cool. So
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Bringing it back to being a father, obviously, when you play sports, I think you get more mentors, more people, more examples of, let's call it, manhood and or fatherhood
Mm.
than you would otherwise.
I
Right?
agree. I agree.
think that's obviously one of the advantages of playing organized sports. But yeah, I mean, on my Mount Rushmore of influential men in my life, at least one of them is my high school coach, and
Sure.
and probably my pitching coach in high school, or I mean in college. So that's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, you're right. You don't realize like the amount of time and impact they have on such
Hmm.
at that time, it's such a large part of your life, but looking back, it's such a small part, right? If you don't go any further than that, you don't like it's 1, 2, 3, 4 years of your life, most of the time for most people.
Yeah, yeah,
And, that's just such a small part, right? But then
yeah,
also too, like you said you met your wife at college, or your future wife.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the other thing I've noticed. Those relationships in some way with people have made it farther if they've met a significant other in college through a sporting activity. There's
Mhm.
something about the rigorous structure. If they're able to make it through that with you, plus everything else that's going on in college, and then
That's
like
a good point.
something about it, right? It builds a different level of character. It builds a
Yeah,
different level of respect, and
yeah.
I don't know.
That's a great point. Because my wife, we started dating when I was a sophomore, so she saw the highs and lows of my career, and she
Mm,
saw me at my worst. She saw me after games where I didn't pitch well, and I was being can we swear?
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
I was being a total fucking baby, and
care.
she she stuck with me.
Sure.
She said, I can deal with that. And obviously, I asked her to marry me, and life is good now. But that's a good point. I hadn't thought about how how good relationships could be forged in the fire of an athletic career.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, I mean, you see different relationships, and it's weird because as we get further down the pipeline, that becomes a highlighted factor to like college football players. I don't know if you notice, like all the like they say that they're married, or there's highlights on like ESPN where such Baker Mayfield, right, and him and his
Yeah,
wife. Well, he
yeah,
was married in college. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And looking at them today, now, I mean, I don't know if you're a Browns fan or I don't know who's a
Unfortunately.
Browns fan. Yeah, yeah. So like we live in Ohio. I think either one or the other in some capacity, right? But the reality of it is, like, you start to see that, and if they can make it through that, we can make it through those things. You're right. It is forged in fire because that is you want to talk about some experience. Let's just put it
Yeah,
that way. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, athletics affords you more mentors, more examples. I think you have that if you are lucky enough to form a relationship during your career. Um, it sounds like there's at least an opportunity to really solidify that relationship.
mm-hmm.
You learn values about how to work as a team, how to be selfless, how to be a leader, how to have tough conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was fortunate enough too to play all over the country and meet a lot of different people and see a lot of different places and learn a lot of different ways of life, which also shaped the way I approach life now.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sports in general change everything about you. I coached I coached high school baseball for 5 years early in my career of like being a business owner and doing what I do. And it's amazing the impact you can have on young kids and helping them further on. Like I have kids now that are married and have babies on the way, which is crazy to think, right? Like I'm not that freaking old, but the reality of it is like these kids are seeing differences. We're making impacts on their lives in various ways, which is unbelievable. So, organized sports is a game changer. It teaches you to be a father in a different way, a parent in a different way, a husband, and a business owner, everything in between. So, always hit on that.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
It's fun that you're a sports guy, right? Like, I'll be honest, you didn't give me like a quadzillion things. Like some people have filled out like these forms to the craziest extents, like a ton of stuff. And I'm not saying it. You didn't give me nothing or like, but it's funny. Sports, I wasn't necessarily prepared to talk about sports. However, that's what I chose today's conversation to be about.
No, it's funny.
Which was funny. And the fact that you played college baseball, there's a lot of connection there. That's super cool. So, in light of, now this is not the same. You didn't put anything about basketball on here. In light of March Madness, I guess my question of the day, the thing that's been trying to wrap my head around when I think of everything, being a dad and life in general, is a perfect bracket any fun? Right? That's my question. And it's so deep in thoughts. Like, why would that, Grayson, you're crazy. I could make millions of dollars. What if you did it for free and you chose a perfect bracket? Right?
What? So is this a metaphor for life, or are you asking specifically about a perfect bracket?
So yes and yes, right? It's a okay. You take this wherever you want, right? Every week we ask a question. I try to come up with a question that literally means nothing but means everything, right? You could take it a million different ways. So what do you think?
Yeah. Let's start on the surface. A perfect bracket would mean so much to me because the only bracket games I get into are with my family, with my kids and my wife. And I haven't won yet. We've been doing this for several years. I would love to wipe the floor with them and crush, because it means I get to pick dinner and I get to pick a movie. And that'd be a big deal for me.
All right, let me rephrase the question. Bracket is a perfect bracket, like March Madness bracket, even fun. That's what you're talking. Oh, okay. I thought you said racket, and I was like, all right. Okay.
No.
Oh, man.
Perfect brackets.
Okay.
Yeah, so like right now downstairs, all of our brackets are taped to the wall, and I would love to just run the floor and show how much Dad knows, right?
Love it.
But if we are talking metaphorically, I think we're talking about making all the right decisions and making all the right moves. Would that be fun? No, it wouldn't. I mean, it's obviously, well, I don't know. Maybe life would be a little bit easier, but then you wouldn't have the lessons. You wouldn't have some of the memories. You wouldn't have some of that stuff you do with your wife late night in the kitchen, where you reminisce back on. Remember when we did that? That was so stupid.
Yes.
That's what life's about. Life's about screwing it up and making memories, learning, apologizing. What could I teach my kids if they never heard me apologize? If they never heard me or saw me screw up and how I handled it, right? Then how would they know how to handle it when they screw up? So that would not be particularly fun to run a metaphorical perfect bracket.
Yeah, well, in real life though, right? So I mean, I agree with you. I think that metaphorical side, right? We always think of billionaires, people with tons of money. Their life is so easy, right? Everything's handed to them on a silver platter. But we don't know the struggles and stuff they deal behind them. I don't think anybody has a perfect bracket, right?
No,
there's nothing.
Nope.
That's what forges us.
No,
you know what I mean. You look at
what's the last time you heard some super successful, let's just say financially successful person, say that they, from point A to point B, that they ran the floor, they ran the table, and they had no mistakes. I would say the opposite, that the more successful a person is, the bigger the mistakes were in the past.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I love watching, while awkwardly, I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Cuban. I am a big fan of him. Like, there's a lot of things we don't agree about, but we do. And I
Sure.
love watching his stories about failure. He has a
Mhm.
lot of those out there that he goes and talks about in like
Yeah.
short interviews and stuff like that. But he
Yeah.
talks about that the most. And one of the things that was most recent, he talked about not being nice enough, which was interesting, causing the most failure in his life. He wasn't nice enough. And in other words, when he was hiring on or trying to keep an employee, they went out and found a different job, and he was like, see you later, instead of going to them and talking to them about like what he can do. Now, obviously today's landscape has changed as far as like employees and stuff and how we handle that.
Yeah.
But he talked about not being nice enough costing him the most amount of money, right? There's a huge failure for him, which most people wouldn't think of that. You wouldn't look at it in that way. You wouldn't see it in that way, which is interesting. But
in my mind, that's the worst kind of failure. It sounds a lot like regret. I mean, when we started talking about this, I thought of failure like, I made this business decision. It cost me a couple $100,000, whatever. I learned from it, and now I make better business decisions. But when you start talking about the way you showed up for somebody, and how if you could, you would go back in time and show up differently. Yes, there's a lesson to be learned there, but there was also a missed opportunity to impact somebody's life positively, and you didn't take it, or maybe you did the opposite of it and impacted it negatively. And there's not much you can do at this point to go to resolve that, especially if that person is not in your life anymore. Like it sounds like for him, these people weren't. That's heavy.
take that one step further, right? I'm the guy that thinks that next level. What about if your negative impact on that person's life was the life lesson they needed to create a positive impact and do something greater?
Sure. Yeah. And if, yeah, I guess there's always a chance of that. But I would say, we're not setting out in life to make things difficult for people just so they have an obstacle to overcome and can get better down the road, in general.
Sure.
Sometimes when you're parenting, and sometimes when you're coaching, that is your job. Your job is to make life a little bit more difficult for your kids or your players than it otherwise would be, so that they can overcome that. They can learn the skills and the attributes, the values to overcome that obstacle, and they're better for it. But in general, you're not trying to be a dick to people just so they can learn some sort of life lesson.
Sure.
But yeah.
Got any examples of how you make it more difficult for your kids, but it's a life lesson that's going to make them stronger, better in the future?
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes when my kids ask for things or to do things, I'll just say no, just because my intent is really to, like, there's a couple things going on there. One is I want to see how they'll react. And I want to see, based on how they react, what kind of conversation we can get into. And I also often want to teach them that life is not fair. If your kids are anything like mine, let's see, kid number one will ask me to do something. Last Friday, they got to do it. Kid number two will ask me to do something similar 4 days later, and I'll say no. And they'll say, but Brindley got to do that. That's not fair. Life is not fair, and it's not a given that everything will be equal for you for in every situation.
Of course.
And teaching them that lesson is important. And I think some of it is handling the emotions that well up when they experience something that they find to be an injustice, and then helping them deal with those emotions in in a positive way and in a constructive way. Which, listen, I mean, that's something I'm still working on. But that's one example, a small example of how I do that. I don't know. I don't know if it's working or not, but sometimes I just think that my kids, they have it easy. They're lucky. They're surrounded by grandparents and parents and friends and people that love them and support them and take them to do fun things and give them the world. If But I want to teach resilience. I want to teach um, bouncing back. I want to teach mental strength and the ability to deal with tough emotions. And at least in my experience, the only way to learn those things is to go through some hardships
Mm-hmm.
and to overcome some obstacles. And if they're not gonna encounter obstacles and hardships on their own, which they will later in life, I understand, then maybe I'll just plant a few minor obstacles in front of them so they have to get over them.
Sure. Well, we don't know what obstacles are going to be faced with, right? We have no
Right,
idea.
right.
And that's the hardest part. I mean, as a father, as a parent, as a friend to people that have kids in all capacity, right? We have no idea what others are going to go through, our kids included. And it's the hardest thing to deal with. I mean,
Yeah.
we can only shield them, prepare them for everything we think could come, and then something else is going to come. Especially in today's world, right? There are so many changes that are going on. I mean, it's a hot topic yesterday about who won the women's U.S. championship swimming, right? I mean, you want to talk about changes in the world? Like, go look into that. Go look into that situation. I don't know how to prepare my daughters for that, for the future. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, you talk about life's not fair. Well, life's not fair. That's just what it is. I mean, and how do you prepare them for the life's not fair speech, right? Like these are little things that we're doing, but I mean, eventually life is really freaking not fair. There's a lot.
Yeah. When life's not fair, really what we're talking about is how there is going to be shit that happens that you cannot control and that you wish would have gone differently.
Mm-hmm.
But in any situation, there are things you can control. There's no sense worrying about all the other stuff you can't.
Of course.
Focus on what's going on in your head. Focus on what language you're using, what words you're using, and how you're talking. Focus on the actions you're taking yourself and what you're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that you can control. There's no sense whining and moaning and wallowing in whatever is going on. I understand there are emotions attached to that, and I'm not saying push your emotions down, dust yourself off, suck it up, and move on. Which is something I would have said probably a month ago.
All right.
But I'm learning this concept, thankfully, because of some people I'm surrounded with and my wife who's gotten deep into this concept of feeling your feelings to completion. And if you're angry, that's great. Let's elevate, let's look at it, let's acknowledge I'm angry right now. And however long it takes to process that anger, that's fine. But eventually we've got to take a next step and got to move on.
Yeah. It's tough. And I think hopefully you guys can see this. This is not just advice for being a dad. This is advice for the dad as well. Right?
True.
I think as we learn and as we go and become the next step of a grandfather eventually and a great grandfather, hopefully, and whatever else title we take on, this advice that we are giving to our kids and having for everything else is equally as important for us, because the say-do concept was talking about last week with James Jenkins. Well, this is just the same thing. If we're telling our kids this stuff, we got to be practicing it ourselves. If our kids see us struggle with a business thing that we just lost, I mean, I would assume, your kids are probably invested in your business as far as they know what the heck daddy's doing, especially at their age. And they probably can see it written on your face when you come in with a deal that must be struck that was lost or something bad happened, right? So if they can see you take the same concept you're instilling in them and you can internalize it, you can deal with it instead of pushing it out. I mean, I have the hard conversations with my daughter. I mean, she will know. She will absolutely know that this month has been a freaking nightmare when it comes to work. She knows it. She'll tell you. She will tell you. But she will also know this has been the greatest month we've ever had in business in nearly 15 years. You know what I mean? And all in the same sense. And it's all about attitude. And I need her to know that no matter what obstacles you have, there's another door. We talked about it. And, you know, does if a door closes, does another door open? Hell, yes, it does. There's something else going on. Sometimes you got to go beat that freaking door down that just closed on you because you know it was the right thing. So the reality of it is, if I'm not practicing it and preaching it, my kids are not going to. They're just not going to. And that's right. I mean, you're hitting on it all the way with regards to that.
And what a age right now we have. You know, I'm starting to lose it a little bit with my kids at their age, but your kids at that age are pretty much your captive audience. There isn't a lot of external influence for them. You know, we're getting ready to go into a season of life, especially for my older daughter who's getting ready to go into middle school, where we're going to be competing against other voices in the world around her. And really all we can do right now is keep saying the things that we've been saying, but then also hope the things that we've been saying in the past for the last 10, 11 years have stuck and have formed a strong enough foundation that she's able to stay planted and rooted in those things.
Oh, that's scary. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Trust me. It is the hardest. I mean, I will tell people, like, I think there's multiple stages we go through in kids' life, and I haven't been in the next and the next stage, right? And all those beyond, like where you're at today. I always tell people there's the baby stage that is extremely just uplifting and tough, right? Like we our third kid, he doesn't know how to sleep through the night. My wife probably got 2 hours of sleep last night, and he's freaking 9 months old.
Ooh.
It was an awful night of sleep last night. Then I mean, I got more because I can't breastfeed him. Like I don't have that gifted ability. But like, you know, you go through that stage, then you have your molding stage that you're at, and 3, 5, 7 years old, and then all of a sudden you're in the stage where the outside influences are absolute next level, and I am scared to death. Because it's those outside influences that will then pave your child's life to the next thing, right? They're going to pave your child's life of decision-making skills and everything in between. It's like you see all the time, like in today's society, which I totally agree with. If your son or daughter is out and they happen to have a drink, call dad. I'm not going to be concerned, right? I'm going to come get you. I'm going to take care of you. Don't get in the car. Like those decision-making skills are being paved at 11, 12, 13, because when they get to the point to be able to do that, they've already made their mind as what they're going to do when they're 15, 16, 17. You know what I mean? So that is scary. Oh my goodness, that is scary.
And let's not assume that we're just kind of like sending our kids out into the world and saying, "Oh, I hope this works out." I mean, we have the opportunity to be very intentional and deliberate about the other influences in their life, right? I mean, the other things that you let into your house via TV, screens, decisions around when and if your kids will get cell phones, other decisions about your community and who you surround your family with. If you're not deliberate about that, then you're just kind of at the mercy of who walks in and out of your life.
Couldn't be more relevant right now. Oh my gosh, you're exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. And then, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's starting already, but decisions about friends and their families. I mean, you probably remember as a teen, you had a friend or two that your parents just weren't weren't fond of. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
really understand why, because this person was cool or whatever it was. And those can be, I'd imagine, some tough conversations.
Gosh.
But
Oh
yeah,
man.
we
Yeah.
can stay influential, and we can stay deliberate about um, the voices around our kids.
That's true. That's true. We it's crazy. I think some people know, not everybody does, but we actually send our 5-year-old. We're going to send our 3-year-old, or we'll be 4 and then 6 or whatever, to Tree of Life Christian School. So we send them to
Okay.
private school. We did a lot of vetting when we were trying to make the decision for pre-K and all that other stuff. We did a lot of vetting before that, and we come into that conversation of, because we live in Hilliard, I get to pay the glorious taxes for Hilliard, to live here. And, we once we moved here, we started vetting the school that she was going to. And you want to talk about outside influences, right? Like that was something that was really heavy for us of
Sure.
knowing that. And again, I'm not judging anybody that sends their kids to Hilliard schools or whatever school system, right? Like I won't.
No.
I mean, that was our internal decision. And I realized like the biggest investment I can make, in my opinion, was to send my kid to a private school to which I could further control those outside influences.
Yeah.
I could trust, I have a relationship, or I guess a relationship. A relationship with the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They know where I stand because my daughter's not just a number to them. And I'm not saying that's everywhere, and I'm not downgrading teachers, right? Like I'm not. I'm just saying like we have a different relationship. We have a different input. Whereas in the other situation, it wouldn't have been. And I hope that I can continue this. I hope I can do that because you're right. Outside influences, they scare me to death.
Yeah.
So
there's some interesting things in that, what you just said. One is, in order to make decisions like you were making about your school, you have to know where the hell you're going. You have to have some sort of idea. When my kids leave from being under my roof, these are the things that I want to send them off with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't thought about that, then you're just making decisions because of it feels right in the moment.
Sure.
So I would challenge dads to. I have a list. Here are the things I want to send my kids off with when I'm done, quote unquote, done with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then that informs the decisions and the actions I take between now and then. And the other thing you said in there was control. And I know I struggle is not the right word. Control is something that I'm learning to give up. And I understood what you meant, but so I guess the question is, when is control a piece of that vision and that plan that we were just talking about, and when is control an ego thing?
All right, I'll give you that. Control's an ego thing when I know my son or daughter is not a D1 athlete, not going to go to college, and it's going to cost them an arm and a leg and be a future heartbreak. But I continue to force them to get training, this, that, and another from something, and I force a lifestyle that it's not the future for them. Yeah. And I head them in a path of non-existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's an ego thing because I think and I want and stuff like that. Being a coach, one of my good friends that'll eventually be on the podcast, I coached with all 5 years, whether it was a head coach or assistant coach to him. He's a great guy, and he still coaches to this day. He's a teacher, and he's always told me, and I never knew this, I never saw it, but being a head coach and in his position, I'm going to know my kid's a D1 athlete and is going to be a scholarship kid and has a future very early on. We're going to know this very early on. It's written on the walls. It's understood. What pains me are the parents that have spent thousands of dollars to join the club teams to force their kid in a lifestyle of something because it's an ego thing. I want to control it. I want you to do that. You don't need to do that. Yeah. Because I'm going to be honest with you. If you're a D1 athlete, you don't need that. They're going to come see you. They're going to know that you have it. You have it. You already have it. You know what I mean? I mean, is it going to make it better? Sure, it'll make it better. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But you've already got it. Now, I'm not telling my kids they're failures, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell my kids they're failures. I'm not saying that. But I also want them to understand that life is just freaking, it's not fair either. and you
Yeah.
weren't built that way. And there's other things to life, right? There's other things to life. I led my high school in senior year in home runs, RBIs, batting average. I had a sub 1.9 pop time to second base. I was a fucking stud, bro. I was a stud my senior year. Life is not fair. I'm not playing Major League Baseball. I'm doing great now. You know what I mean? I found a new passion and things that I want to do. But the reality of it is, it is what it is. I mean, I hate to say that. And so having my kids understand that, I want them to love the sport, love what they have going on. And if I control it, they're going to freaking hate it.
Yeah.
They're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, in my opinion. Me controlling. Now, the other side of that, the control, which I consider different, is I can control the influences. When my daughter is in school, and Florida is dealing with this right now, and she's 5 and 6 and 7 years old, and the teacher's bringing out a book that I don't agree with, talking to them about whatever it might be, right? I mean, again, that's just my decision, my opinion about, their lifestyle choices at 6 years old. And then my daughter, because she's an extremely deep thinker, she goes to her teacher and start asking questions, and then the teacher just freely answers them. And now has paved a different path that I have no idea. That's the control I don't want to relinquish yet.
Yeah.
Those are the things that scare me half to death. I want my daughter and my son and my other daughter to come to me to ask those hard questions. I'm not going to get them all. I'm not going to get them all. I already know that. However, I have to be able to impact as many of those hard questions as possible. And it is worth thousands of dollars a year, right? To send them to Tree of Life. It's worth thousands of, it's worth that investment to me to control that.
Yeah. So. It sounds like one of the reasons you make that decision is so that when your kids go and ask a teacher some of these questions, that the teacher is more likely to answer in a way that you would answer.
Correct. 100%. 100%. And not everybody's going to. It is what it is, and I can't control that. I don't agree with everybody on everything, nor do I want to, or will I ever. However, I can help find somebody that is going to have a like, kind, and quality attitude, mindset, placement, and can control that to a certain degree. Otherwise, I just don't know. You know what I mean? I just don't know. So, it's tough.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about control in terms of even smaller stuff. Trust, the kids and their ability to make decisions about their own safety or about what's right and wrong. Where's the line between trusting them to make the right decisions versus controlling the environment so they don't have the opportunity to make the wrong decision?
Oh, that's tough as a parent. My wife butt heads about that all the time, and I butt heads about that all the time. She doesn't want them. I mean, we've had really crappy stuff happen to my daughter where she, like, at the Peloton store, she fell, she hit her head like right here. Luckily didn't break her nose. I mean, literally she looked like a little alien, like an avatar. It was so bad. It was so bad, right? And my wife's like, I could have stopped that. I'm like, no. There was nothing you could have done, right? Like, my daughter's fallen down our steps before. We have this, like, in our great room. The steps are just unbelievably, they're steep, right?
Yeah.
She's fallen down before. And my wife's like, oh my goodness, you got to go down on your belly. I'm like, she's 5 years old. You're going to tell her at 16, hey, go down on your belly, And I'm like, I get what you're saying. That is, where do you, like, draw the line, and what age do you draw the line for that? I think that then goes back to us being an influence on our kids and showing them how to do stuff. Point in case, my son, he better walk on the outside when he's walking on the street with his future whoever, or even his mom in the future, the outside of the street in comparison to her being on the inside. For every woman, I just think that is the most respectful and thing as a man that he can do. I think that's very important. Those are the things that we can instill in our kids, and I'm never going to sit really and I'll tell him about it one day, but I'm not going to harp on it every year. You know what I mean? I'm going to show him because that's what I do. You know what I mean? It's the weird things like that. So
that is interesting. And then if they don't, how are you responding if the stuff that you think is important if they just don't find it important in the future. I
Ugh.
don't know the answer to that, but I mean, I've seen the way my dad has handled it, obviously, and watching my dad has been a big influence on the way I parent. But you know, there were iterations. There were, you know, an obvious leaving behind of some of the things that my dad finds very important. An initial reaction, I think he would agree, of anger, control, force feeding a little bit, and then I don't know when or how, but just a letting go and an acceptance of of the decisions that I'm going to make, and loving me anyway and supporting me anyway. Which is, I mean, if there's any lesson that we'd want our kids to know is, yes, I want you to do this, this, and this. If I could have any influence on you at all, I really would want you to do these things. But please know that no matter what you do, what decisions you make, I'm just gonna love you because you're you and because you're my son or daughter.
Yeah. Mm. That's tough. That's tough. Well, I have to think it in some capacity, which you talk about your dad and you and the growth of that, right? Like the two growths of those aspects. I also think like we grew up in two different time like lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was today's lesson that we're teaching our kids could be tomorrow's mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my thoughts. Like I want to be always forward thinking. Obviously, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to teach them the lesson today that's going to make them through today. But as they're handling that in the future, I want them to question me to an extent of coming to dad and say, hey, dad, you used to tell me to do such and such.
Yeah.
But I see this different today. Why? Yeah. And should I do this or should I do this? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can create that relationship with them, that's a win, because I'm not always right. I'll never always be right, nor do I want to be. And I also want to admit that, hey, it's okay to be different, and different is not what we all recognize it to be. Different is not just being different. Different is there's a reason you are different, right? If I told you, maybe in the future walking on the inside versus the outside, because the women now take that role, I don't know. But the reality of it is like, I want you to question that to the right extent and have that conversation, ask the questions, because maybe it does change. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe there's flying cars on the inside of the road now instead of the outside. I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
But
just wait, man. I mean, the questioning, it's coming. It's coming sooner than you think it's coming. In fact, just this morning, my oldest two were in the kitchen putting the dishes away, and they were jawing at each other because they were annoying each other, and that annoys me. And I said something to some dad line like, "Keep it up," and you're going to your rooms or whatever. And my daughter, who's 11, says, "Wait a minute, you're annoyed with us, so you get to punish us, but you're annoyed with us because we're annoyed at each other. That doesn't make any sense." And in the moment, I was doing something else and didn't want to deal with it. And he was like, "Well, I'm just trying to teach you." I don't remember what I said, but it was bullshit. But the questioning is coming, and I would say if they're questioning you and they're willing to have the conversation with you, then you're winning, right? As long as it's not blatantly disrespectful. But if they're okay bringing those things to you and asking questions, then you're doing something right, probably.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. All right. So as we wrap this up, I got a couple questions for you. We haven't brought this up. So we have a very common aspect. My wife hates that I have loud sneezes and chew loud for some reason. So you at least got one of those two. It's comical that you put that on there. That's fantastic. She will literally, she's like, "I can hear you in the other room." Like either sneezes or I don't even understand it. It's life. I don't know.
Yep. That's funny.
I got to ask, you had a really good favorite advice or advice that you've ever received. Don't make decisions on a girl you're chasing. Obviously you met your wife in college, or future wife in college, right? So how did you get that advice, or is that just advice that you received post that you felt like was important?
So it was a very distinct, specific moment where I was making decisions about where I was going to go to college. And I remember standing I was in probably my senior year, standing in the gymnasium next to my high school baseball coach, and we were talking about a decision of where I was going to go. And I probably said something because I had a serious girlfriend at the time. And I probably said something along the lines of, I could go play here, but it's so far away, but I could stay local and play for this school. And I didn't say I wanted to stay local because of this girlfriend, but he knew. And he told me, he said, "Brooke, don't make decisions about your future based on a girl that you just happen to be dating right now." And it's funny the things that stick with you. But I remember that moment distinctively, and my initial reaction to that was, he doesn't know. Everybody, no, that particular girlfriend nobody liked, and now I understand why. But but I took that advice. I went and played, 6 hours away from my hometown. That naturally, that relationship dissolved. I made new relationships, met my wife, and the rest is history. I had an awesome time. But that piece of advice sticks with me, and there's probably more you can draw from that piece of advice, whether it's a girl or not, but or whether we're talking about short-term gains at the expense of long-term gains. But yeah, that was powerful, and he doesn't know that. I should email him and let him know that I still think about that.
That's funny.
How much it changed my life. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, do you have any advice? We always like to leave the episode with some type of advice for people. Any dad advice or anything like that you would want to share? So,
I would go back to intentionally designing at least some semblance of what you want to impart in your kids, and what legacy you want to leave behind with your kids. Because the fact of the matter is, you're going to leave a legacy. Legacy is unavoidable. Is that legacy going to be intentionally shaped and positive, or is that legacy going to be haphazard and random and whatever it happens to be? And the only way that you get to influence your legacy is if you think about it now.
Man, I appreciate that. Because that is speaking some truth there. So, well, you got anything else before we hop off today? I really appreciate you being on here. Appreciate the advice that you're giving to our listeners, and anything else you want to share?
No, I enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more, Harvey. We thank all of our listeners for continuing to tune in.
Let me go
ahead.
If you don't mind, let me can drop my contact information, unless you were going to put that somewhere else.
It'll be in the post that'll go out there. So,
okay.
And I'll put it, if you send it to me, whatever you want done, if you send it to me, I'll put it in the the podcast notes as well, so people have that as well.
Okay,
so
that works.
But yeah,
cool, man.
Well, I appreciate you being on here. Thanks for taking your time this morning with me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and guys, continue to invest in this. Make sure you share these. If you've gotten any advice from it, obviously let others know. Make sure you subscribe to whatever podcast version that you're on, as well as make sure you give us a review and reach out to others, letting them know that this is an awesome listen. And if you're a dad, father, or anything fitting in that category, and you want to be a part of the What's Up Dad podcast, don't hesitate to click the link, fill out your information, and we will get you scheduled. Otherwise, thanks and have a good one, guys.
What's up, Dad? Hey, Dad, what's up?